Okay, hello Voiders. We are here with Jed Brian, star and director of the newfound footage film Unlisted Owner.
Hey everybody.
So how you doing?
I'm doing great. Just, trying to beat this heat. I'm just glad my air conditioner works. How about yourself?
Oh, also, yeah, same problem here, and I don't even have an AC in here. But so Unlisted Owner has been making quite the impression lately. What started out as just this little film chilling at Amazon Prime, you could check out, now suddenly is available everywhere. We have it on iTunes now. We have it on where else?
You can get it on Prime in the UK, and then the US. I'm pretty sure you can get it on the Google Play Store, and then also in the US you can watch it on YouTube. Of course, you got to pay for it. And then Barnes & Noble bookstore in the US, and there's some other different little ones in the US, and also POV Horror. It's available on that as well, on that found footage channel. So it's definitely getting out there. So I'm really hoping eventually maybe to get it, like DVD copies actually in Germany. It'd be an awesome goal, but we haven't quite got there yet.
Yeah, but like what started out as a little project really made international rounds, like worldwide. Did you expect that from your production for that to happen?
I really didn't know what to expect. For the longest time, I always wanted to make a feature film. So whenever we did some little teaser trailer for a script I had, and then started putting pen to paper and came up with this concept for Unlisted Owner. So I didn't know exactly where it was going to go. I knew that once I got it made, I was going to push it as far as it could go and just see what happened. So, and just wherever the chips may lie, and here I am talking to you in a podcast, and you're out of Germany. It's just it's awesome.
Movies bring the world together. Where did the idea happen? Were you inspired by any old school found footage films? Like, how did the whole entire concept of the scary house and these kids doing the camping trip actually happen?
Well, ever since I was a kid, I've always loved scary films. My mom had bought me a VHS of House on Haunted Hill with Vincent Price, and it really kind of got me into horror, and they always took us to haunted houses and stuff, and I had the monster movie King Kong versus Godzilla. But whenever I saw, I just graduated high school, and I saw Eli Roth's Hostel for the first time, and I was just blown away by it, because all the other horror films I had watched up to that point, had a ghost or some type of monster. And this was real life horror. And it really kind of chilled me to the bone, because I'd never been outside the country. And it really goes to show you, I'm a person that makes a lot of friends. So I could see myself getting in a predicament where, these guys tell me, hey, you should come with us. And then you end up in a hostel and getting tortured. So it really opened up my mind to real life horror. So then I started writing down different movie ideas I had for something that actually scared me. And with Unlisted Owner, there's a scene in the film that involves an attic space. I always thought it'd be creepy if that scene was in a movie. And then also the fear of being peer pressured by your friends and you getting in a situation that you don't know which is the right answer. Do you bail on your friends, or do you go in and try to help them out so they don't either get arrested and hopefully nothing worse than that happens? But so that's kind of where the whole concept for Unlisted Owner came from, is just kind of my own fears of being, in that situation, kind of written to a script form.
So you'd say realness, reality is actually a much bigger fear and a much scarier concept than anything supernatural.
Yeah, to me it is. I mean, supernatural stuff, I have scripts that have supernatural elements to them, but to me, I'm sure you've been in that situation, and other people who are watching this interview have been in the situation where, you go out with a group of friends and they're doing stuff that you really don't want to do, or you really don't think is right. But at the same time, what do? Do you cop out and then, have them make fun of you, or you fall outside that friend circle, or do you go around with it and just, roll the dice and see what happens next?
You really get that feeling the dude behind the camera, you totally feel his struggle there.
Town. A little over a mile from here.
So
you talk about ghost stories and something. This is a real life ghost story, dude, man.
I'm in. Man.
Seriously,
Dude, I came out here. I'm not going back to that house.
Yeah.
Especially those girls.
I can't believe they really left us down here.
I know.
Let's just leave. Let's just leave.
This is complete bullshit.
I mean, it seemed like a good idea at first, but really, I'm just ready to go.
Yeah.
And that's another concept with Unlisted Owner. I kind of wanted to show like it's like a coming of age film to where Griffin and I have serious girlfriends, and we're trying to mature, but at the same time we have like Gavin and Tyler that are still in the party mode, and that's what me and Griffin used to do. But they can see our girlfriends as kind of like stealing our friendship away from Gavin and Tyler. So they're going to try to do anything they can to put as much pressure on us to break up with these girls as possible. And that's kind of where the whole, plot of the movie comes, of them trying to one up each other as far as pranks go, to try to get us to that tipping point to where we're going to have to choose either, hey, we're either going to stick with these girls or we're going to come back to our boys and start hanging out and then tearing up the town again. So that's kind of like the whole concept of the film of, some people say, well, there's a lot of fighting and bickering and stuff.
Where we go? I mean, we're in a car. You have to have it on.
Andrew, stop it.
She's right, Jed. You've had that thing on all day. Pretty soon, it's going to be attached to your body.
There's nothing wrong with this. I don't see what you guys are getting all bent out of shape about.
But the point in these characters' lives is at the point to where you're going to have to make a decision. Are you going to still stay, in party mode, a kid, or are you going to try to grow up and mature and just see where your life takes you from there?
What I noticed in Unlisted Owner, you seriously use a lot of classic found footage tropes.
And it pretty much has the exact same cliches all those movies have too. You got your fake digital camera breaking down effect, check. You got your fake battery, dude, check. You got your annoying dude who doesn't want to be filmed and keeps telling the guy with the camera to stop taping with the camera.
She's right, Jed. You've had that thing on all day.
Check. You got your dude who doesn't want to stop taping.
There's nothing wrong with this. I don't see what you guys are getting all bent out of shape about.
Check. You got some annoying girl.
I know.
Let's just leave. Let's just leave.
This is complete bullshit.
I mean, it seemed like a good idea at first, but really, I'm just ready to go.
Check. It's all there. Every single cliche you can think of in a found footage movie, it is just there.
Was that purposeful? Was that intended? Did you want to make this homage to old school found footage films like Blair Witch and Paranormal Activity and so on?
Yeah, and some aspects we did, and there's other things in found footage that I really don't like. One thing that when you watch our film you may notice is there's several shots that seem like they go on forever, like a long period of time, like the road trip scene, for instance. But actually in that scene there is I think there's 6 or 7 edits that I haven't had anybody pick out yet. Yeah. So, and actually one of the edits is whenever we end up at the cemetery, there's actually a 3-month difference between when we're in the vehicle to when I exit the vehicle, because we had a mistake in the film. And so that's all in there, but no one has noticed that. And my biggest pet peeve with found footage films is when they're recording and all of a sudden they stop and it's goes forward either 5 minutes or a few seconds. So I wanted to make it seem like raw, real, uncut as much as possible. And then when we did have those breaks, we put those evidence placards in there so you could identify whose camera you were actually looking through. Because especially in the new Blair Witch Project, they have multiple cameras going at the same time. So you're going back and forth between all these different cameras, and you're kind of well, who has the camera right now? So I wanted to kind of put that in there as kind of a little bit of showing you who has the camera at what time. And also, I'm a huge silent film fan. Always love silent films, and I've always loved those little bitty placard cards they put up in between different scenes. So I kind of wanted to put that in there as my little, tip of my hat back to, Lon Chaney and the found footage film, or not, or silent films.
You seem to have really paid attention to not making those classic found footage mistakes other films do. How was the production in general? What were the biggest difficulties?
Well, one of the biggest difficulties was the attic space scene. And also there's a scene where, spoiler a little bit, there's a cracked ceiling part. And in that house, there was no attic space and we couldn't crack the ceiling in it. So I actually had to have a set built of a fake room that was an exact replica of the real room in the house. And we shot those scenes in the fake room, and I had to try to get the same lighting and everything. And then we spliced them using those blend edits that I talked about earlier, to where I would jerk the camera up and I would try to replicate that same exact motion, and then we would interchange those scenes in there. Like the attic space scene, I think there's like 4 or 5 edits within that one, like probably 8 or 9 second period, to where it's like we're in the real room, and then all of a sudden we're in the fake room, back in the real room, back in the fake room, and then all of a sudden we're outside the room, in the real room, in the house. So there was a lot of that going on, but you had to actually, you know, it was really hard to kind of replicate that. I think the attic space scene, I think it took us like 30 takes to be able to get the right one, the right cadence that I was hoping would work in the editor, and it did. And then the crack ceiling, we did that on 1 take. We had another part of the room we could use, but I wanted to try to make sure we could get it in 1 take. So that was one of the more difficult parts. Another part was, this is advice to filmmakers out there, indie filmmakers. Whenever you're going to shoot a film, make sure that don't go cheap, or if you're going to go cheap, make sure you get the clothes back from the actors. Because there was when we were going to do the road trip scene, because the film wasn't long enough, we ended up putting that in there. Heidi had lost her shirt. Griffin had lost his necklace and glasses. So the necklace and glasses were easier to recover, but the shirt was very, very difficult. I had to go through so many stores to try to find one that matched closely to her shirt. And thank God I found one, but man, it was the color was off a little bit, but yeah, it was kind of a little bit strenuous. And then also the fact, whenever you're shooting a film and you have your friends, you have to work around their schedules. And Tyler, I think he was working like every other weekend, and Andrea, there were certain, she had to work like 1 day a weekend or something. So we had to try to get their stuff balanced out, but we ended up getting through it. But those are some of the major challenges.
I'm really glad you ended up putting the road trip scene inside the movie, because that scene, even though it is long and it is, as you said, it is actually intentionally there for filler, I think it really builds into the characters. You like really see who is who like is the more daring one, who doesn't want to be taped, who wants to be taped, and so on. So I actually can't imagine the film without that road trip scene. Well, I think it has to be in there.
Well, I'm glad you liked it. Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it by no means. I might have done things a little differently now that, you know, the whole thing was in there. But the cemetery, I think, really kind of, you know, hypes it up to what's about to happen whenever we go in that old cemetery.
You have definitely like set your mark on the horror genre, and I think a lot of people are watching what you're going to do next. So, do we know what's coming next? Are there any other projects planned?
Well, I have several scripts I've written. There's one called Meth House I had talked to you about off camera earlier. There's actually a teaser trailer for that available on YouTube if you look up Meth House trailer, Lawford County Productions. And that's one I would like to make into a feature film, but it just kind of depends on how much I make off of Unlisted Owner, to what direction I go. I mean, I would love to shoot a traditionally shot film. That's always, you know, I love the classic films. I love Lon Chaney. He's like my favorite horror actor, Vincent Price, all those guys like that. And I mean, I just love the cinematography and stuff like that of traditionally shot films. But, you know, I also love found footage. So if I did have to go that route, I could go that route as well. But I'd really like to try my hand. I know I can do a found footage film. I'd really like to try my hand at a traditionally shot film, because I know that there are two different styles of shooting. I mean, with a found footage film, it does limit you, though. If you think about it, a traditional film, like for instance, a special effects scene, if you have somebody that's coming through a window, you can shoot like several different angles and, you know, make it look really cool. If you're doing it found footage style, you have one point of view, and you have to try to figure out what would be the best point of view for this to look the best on camera. So you are kind of limited in that aspect, and it really does challenge you as a filmmaker. A lot of people think, you know, found footage films is just a cop-out to make an easy film. But there is a lot of pre-planning that goes into it to be able to get those exact shots that you want.
Most people complain when they watch found footage films that there is too much shakiness going on. And I noticed that in Unlisted Owner, you didn't the camera is shaky and screwed up as in, let's say, the new Blair Witch Project, where it seriously just spazzes out. Was that an intention, or did you like to break out of that typical total shakiness?
Well, there was a little bit of shakiness, especially I did have the actors who were behind the camera were actually in control of the movements. For the majority of the film, I'm the one that has the camera. But for instance, the beginning sequence of the film with Chloe having the camera, I think the strap wasn't tight enough around her wrist, and that's why it kind of has that little bit of shakiness with her. With me, I was kind of wanting it a little bit smoother, because I do know people do get kind of sick at watching, found footage films sometimes because of how jerky they are. So I did have that in mind. I mean, there were certain aspects where I knew I had to do, like if I did the drop downs, to be able to do the blend edits to make it look like one continuous scene. But for the most part, I really was trying to make it as steady as possible without it looking like a traditionally shot film.
So you said earlier, was the only reason that you made the found footage film first just because of the funding?
Yeah, that was because I had a few other scripts already written that I would love to have made, but it got to the point to where myself and my friends kept talking about, oh, we're going to make a movie, and no one really had the money to make one. And it kind of got to the point where I kind of looked around the room and thought, well, I guess I'm going to have to do something. So I kind of started brainstorming. I'd watched Blair Witch Project, I'd watched Paranormal Activity and stuff, and I started thinking, well, maybe I could do a found footage style film, and I came up with the attic space scene and just started writing it. And then I also knew who was going to be in my movie as far as my friends, because Gavin and Tyler are actually two of my best friends. They both stood up with me at my wedding and stuff, and we don't hate each other in real life. We were all just playing characters. So a lot of people think that Gavin and Tyler they're like, oh, how can you be friends with those guys? Those guys are such douchebags. But they are not like that at all in real life. And when I wrote the script, I wanted to, I used their different mannerisms they do, or different things that I knew that they would say, and just kind of put it in the context of what those characters would be like, to make it kind of like more of a natural and more realistic flow. So, with that being said, that's kind of like, the gist of it.
Guys, you've heard it here. We have a filmmaker here with a lot of potential, with a lot of plans, with a bright future looking. The only problem is, as it always is, the funding. So please, if you guys want to see Jed Brian make more stuff, buy the movie, support the project, so we get more stuff funded.
Yeah, get the DVD. We got him right here. DVD. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? This has the special features on it. It has like 10 minutes of special features. And we also have cool Unlisted Owner t-shirts. So I actually shipped one to Germany last week to another girl that runs a podcast. So if you're interested in those, just DM me. And we can ship that out to you, no problem.
You just touched on this little subject. You shot Unlisted Owner with your friends, and you also said that you wrote the script around them for things they would say in general. So other than Tyler and Griffin, how different are the characters in real life from
them in real life? It's kind of funny because, like I said earlier, Tyler and Gavin. Tyler actually, whenever we were shooting the film, was actually a police officer, which is kind of funny. And Gavin's always Gavin's a really outgoing guy, and that you kind of get that little bit with that character, but he just, that character is like him turned up to 11, if I, Spinal Tap. But so yeah, and then Andrea, she's actually really mellow. She's not like that at all, like she is in the movie. She's kind of snippy and stuff. Griffin is actually Gavin's brother, which is kind of funny. And Griffin is not cowardice at all. He'd be right there. If Gavin was going in a house, he'd be right there behind him. He wouldn't be like, no, we shouldn't do this. So I'd say out of everybody in the film, as far as the guys, I'd be the most kind of like, let's not do this, guys. You know, let's not call 911 for a prank or anything like that. Let's just, you know, calm it down. So so everyone was kind of playing different characters from what they would actually be like in real life, which was it's kind of funny because found footage is kind of a double-edged sword in a way, because you want to make the acting seem so believable and so real that people sometimes forget that, you know, this is really a movie and these people really do not act like this in real life. So it's just kind of funny to see like how people blur the lines between reality and acting, and it's kind of comical to me.
I'm going to ask one last question before we stop recording.
Yeah.
So, as a new filmmaker who has actually made a successful found footage film, I have to say.
Thank you.
What is your advice to new filmmakers who are trying to make it out there?
Well, you got to try. Don't think just because where I live, where I shot this film, is a small town called Sumner, Illinois, which is right in the middle of the U.S. And the closest mall to where I live is an hour and a half, if that tells you anything. Closest movie theater is about 30 minutes from me. I mean, the town I live in doesn't even have a stoplight. And I just had a dream, a vision that I wanted to make a film. And I sat down with my friends and I just went for it. I had police and ambulance crew, fire department all in the film. And, you know, if you want these elements in your movie, just ask. The worst thing that someone's going to tell you is no. So they can't take away your birthday or anything like that. So just go for it and just see what happens. And I mean, that's what I did with Unlisted Owner. You know, I used to tell people that I was making a movie and people were like, oh, you need to move to Hollywood. You need to do this or do that. But with the way social media is and the way the internet is and just, you know, all these ways to connect, I mean, you can shoot anything anywhere. And if you make something good, you know, something that people like and get excited about, you know, there's no telling what you can accomplish. So just go for it.
Do it! Just do it!
Those were some very nice words.
Thank you.
Okay. So, guys, keep looking out for Jed Brian. Unlisted Owner is available. Check out the movie if you haven't already. We have reviewed it on this channel too. It is I would actually say one of the best found footage films I've seen in the last 5 years. So please check that out and support. And we are out.